There's something happening inside your arteries right now that most people over 60 have never been told about. Not because it is rare, because it is quiet. No sharp pain, no alarm, just a slow, steady process that begins the moment your blood pressure climbs above what your vessels were built to handle, and stays there. I have been sitting across from patients for a long time, and what I have noticed is not just who has high blood pressure, it is how many of them had no idea that the food sitting on their kitchen counter, the same food they eat every single day, was either helping their arteries relax or quietly making them stiffer. By the end of this, you will know exactly 5 things you can start doing with food this week. Not next month, not after your next appointment, this week. Simple, affordable, and backed by real science. Let me start by clearing something up. Most people believe that managing blood pressure is mostly about cutting salt. And look, that is not wrong. Sodium does matter. But here is where the science has moved forward. Sodium is one piece of a much larger puzzle. And for millions of people over 60, the bigger problem is not just what they are eating. It is the combination of what they are missing and what they are getting too much of at the same time. Think of your arteries like a garden hose. When that hose is flexible, water flows through with no problem. But when the hose gets stiff, when the material hardens, pressure builds up, not because more water is going through, because the hose cannot expand the way it should. That is what happens inside your blood vessels when inflammation builds up over time. And food, the right food in the right order at the right time, can actually help that hose stay flexible longer. That gap between what most of us grew up believing about blood pressure and what the evidence now shows is exactly what this video is about. I want to be straightforward with you. I have had countless conversations with patients who came in managing their numbers with medication and doing everything they thought was right, but still struggling. And when we went through what they were eating, not dramatically, just carefully, we found the same patterns showing up again and again. The same blind spots, the same well-meaning habits quietly working against them. What I am about to walk you through. 5 specific, evidence-supported nutritional changes I have gone through with more patients than I can count. And what consistently surprises people is how manageable these are. These are not expensive programs. These are not extreme diets. These are practical, real changes that start in your grocery cart. Number 1. The order of your meals matters more than most people realize. This one comes up more than almost anything else. Here is something most people have never tried. Eating your vegetables before your carbohydrates, not instead of. Before, research published in peer-reviewed journals has examined what happens to blood sugar and insulin levels depending on the order food is consumed in a meal. What the evidence consistently suggests is that eating fiber-rich vegetables first, before your bread, your rice, your potatoes, significantly blunts the blood sugar spike that follows. And this matters for blood pressure because repeated insulin spikes over years are associated with increased arterial stiffness and inflammation. Think of it this way. When you flood your bloodstream with glucose quickly, your body responds by pumping out insulin. And that process, repeated day after day, decade after decade, puts pressure on your vascular system. Eating your greens first slows the absorption of everything that comes after. Your body gets the same food, just processed more gently. Most people notice a difference in how they feel after meals within 2 to 3 weeks of making this switch. And it costs nothing. This is worth mentioning to your doctor, particularly if you are managing blood sugar alongside blood pressure. The two are more connected than people realize. And number 2 is the one that surprises almost everyone. Apple cider vinegar. 1 to 2 tablespoons diluted in water before or during a meal. I know how that sounds, but this is not a folk remedy. There is a mechanism here worth understanding. Acetic acid, the active component in apple cider vinegar, has been studied for its effect on nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide, think of it as your body's natural vessel relaxer, signals the smooth muscle inside your artery walls to loosen. When your body produces more of it, your arteries widen slightly. Blood flows more easily. Pressure drops. Multiple studies have examined the connection between acetic acid and blood pressure markers, particularly in people with mild to moderate hypertension. The findings are not dramatic. This is not a replacement for medication, but as one consistent daily habit, it is a tool worth having. Important note, always dilute it. Undiluted apple cider vinegar can damage tooth enamel and irritate the esophagus. 1 to 2 tablespoons in a full glass of water is the practical approach. If you are on medications that affect potassium levels or blood sugar, check with your doctor before making this a daily habit. Number 3, and this is the counterintuitive one I want you to pay attention to. Your cooking oil may be quietly working against your arteries. Most people who are trying to eat healthy have already switched away from butter. They use vegetable oil, canola oil, sunflower oil, the ones that have been marketed for decades as heart-healthy choices. And here is where the science has become more nuanced. Many of these oils are high in omega-6 fatty acids. And while omega-6 is not inherently harmful, when it becomes disproportionately high compared to omega-3 intake, which is exactly what the modern diet looks like, it creates a pro-inflammatory environment inside your vessels. Inflammation is not visible. It does not hurt. But evidence from multiple large studies consistently associates chronic low-grade vascular inflammation with elevated blood pressure, arterial stiffness, and increased cardiovascular risk. Extra virgin olive oil tells a different story. The Mediterranean diet, which is built around olive oil as the primary fat source, has been studied extensively. Research published in major cardiovascular journals has associated regular olive oil consumption with measurably lower blood pressure and reduced markers of vascular inflammation, particularly in adults over 50. The swap is simple. Use extra virgin olive oil for most of your cooking. It is available at every grocery store. You do not need an expensive brand. You need consistency. If you have specific dietary restrictions or are on blood thinners, this is worth a quick conversation with your doctor. Number 4. What happens to your blood pressure while you sleep? Most people do not know that blood pressure follows a rhythm. It is supposed to dip at night, your body's way of resting and recovering. But in many people over 60, that nighttime dip becomes smaller or disappears entirely. This is sometimes called non-dipping hypertension, and it is associated with higher cardiovascular risk than daytime readings alone. Walnuts eaten in the evening, a small handful, roughly an ounce, have been studied for their effect on overnight cardiovascular function. They are one of the few plant foods that contain a direct source of ALA, an omega-3 fatty acid that supports anti-inflammatory pathways. They also contain melatonin, magnesium, and L-arginine, a precursor to nitric oxide. Research from several institutions, including work published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology, has examined walnut consumption and blood pressure markers. The evidence suggests regular walnut intake is associated with modest but meaningful reductions in both systolic and diastolic readings over time. An ounce of walnuts before bed is not a dramatic habit. It takes 10 seconds, it costs less than $1 a day, and over 90 days of consistency, the evidence suggests it adds up. This is an easy one to bring up with your doctor if you are also monitoring cholesterol or blood sugar, as walnuts have positive associations in those areas as well. Number 5. A cup of tea that has been compared in real published research to common blood pressure medications. Hibiscus tea, 3 cups a day. This is not an exaggeration, and it is not alternative medicine marketing. A study published in the Journal of Human Hypertension directly compared the effect of hibiscus tea against a common ACE inhibitor, a standard class of blood pressure medication, in people with mild to moderate hypertension. The Hibiscus group showed meaningful reductions in both systolic and diastolic blood pressure over a 6-week period. The mechanism involves compounds called anthocyanins, the pigments that give hibiscus its deep red color, which act similarly to ACE inhibitors by relaxing blood vessels and reducing fluid retention. They also have antioxidant properties that reduce oxidative stress on the arterial walls. 3 cups daily. Brewed, not sweetened, with processed sugar. It is widely available in grocery stores and online. It tastes like a tart cranberry tea. Critical point: if you are already on blood pressure medication, do not use hibiscus as a reason to change your dose. Talk to your doctor. Combining the two without supervision can bring your numbers too low. But for people in the early stages or people looking to support their medication with lifestyle, this is one of the most evidence-supported additions you can make. Now let me give you something concrete. Not general advice, an actual simple daily structure. In the morning, with your breakfast, try 1 to 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar in a full glass of water. Eat your vegetables or salad before anything else on your plate. For cooking, replace your vegetable or seed oils with extra virgin olive oil. This is a permanent swap, not a temporary one. With lunch or dinner, continue the vegetable-first approach. Make it a consistent habit, not an occasional one. In the evening, 3 cups of hibiscus tea across your afternoon and evening, 1 after lunch, 1 mid-afternoon, 1 after dinner, and before bed, a small handful of walnuts. That is the whole plan. No expensive products, no complicated routines, just 5 consistent daily decisions that your arteries will feel differently over the next 30 to 90 days. Before I close, I want to say something directly to you. Everything I've shared today is based on current published research and on patterns I have observed over many years working alongside patients managing cardiovascular health. It is educational information. It is not a diagnosis. It is not a prescription. It is not a replacement for the medical care you are already receiving. You are a unique person with a unique history, unique medications, and unique needs. Your own doctor, the one who knows your chart, your history, your other conditions, is always the right first call for anything specific to you. What I want you to do with this is take it into your next appointment as a conversation starter. Show them what you are considering. Ask them which of these fits your specific situation. Use this as a starting point for a better conversation with your doctor, not a replacement for that conversation. I have seen what happens when people ignore the small things long enough for them to become serious things. That is not a place I want you to be. Which is exactly why I keep making these videos. Tell me something in the comments. Which one of these 5 are you starting this week? Number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? I read every comment. I mean that. And if you are over 60 and you are actively working on your heart health, type the words "strong heart" below. I want to see how many of us are here, paying attention, doing the work. If this gave you something real today, something you can actually use, hit like. Not for the algorithm. For the next person who needs to find this video and has not found it yet, your next video is already waiting. It is about something that happens inside your arteries every single night after the age of 60, a process with no obvious symptoms that most people only discover after something serious has already happened. It is one of the most important things I've covered. Watch it next.